Hi everybody, I am Guna. I am head of product at Vendon. It is one of the companies of the Draugiem group. When I was at university, I used to love getting the soft drink Dr. Pepper from the vending machine on the first floor. But I was also very often disappointed to find that they were all out of this drink. And if the company had had Vendon installed in the machines, then they wouldn't have this problem, because what they could do is they could easily just log onto the cloud platform and they would see that this particular vending machine is running out of Dr. Pepper quite a lot. So what they should do is they should just stock more of that drink, and that would mean more revenue for them. What's more beautiful is that they wouldn't have to visit the machine every single day or every 2 or 3 days. What they could do is just see all the data about their machines remotely. The data would be available 24/7, updated in real time on their laptop, on their tablet, on their smartphone. My role in Vendon is I have to take care of our cloud platform, so our software. What I have to do is I have to make sure that whatever we put out is relevant, that this is something that our customers want, our customers need, that we also innovate so that we bring out features that they don't know they need yet, but they actually do. And all in all, so that we can make their lives easier and make their business run more efficiently. How did I get there? I don't have a tech background. When the time came for me to choose what I wanted to study, IT never crossed my mind. I did want to become an engineer or a physicist, but I got scared at the last minute and decided to study linguistics, which was actually a really good choice. I don't believe in the joke that linguistics graduates actually serve you at McDonald's. That is simply not true. What did I want to say? Oh yeah, well, I've always been kind of creative. As a kid, I thought that I could make a radio out of a piece of plastic and some metal wire. Well, it didn't work. I also like taking apart my toy cars and then trying to put them back together to see whether I could do that. Sometimes I could, sometimes I couldn't. And what I also loved very much was jigsaw puzzles. So you have that perfect picture in front of you, and then you have 1,000 pieces in front of you. And what you have to do is you have to put these 1,000 pieces together in the perfect order to recreate that picture. And in a way, I believe that is also a metaphor for product development. You have that perfect idea in your head, and then you have so many components that all have to align perfectly so that you actually bring that idea to life. Well, for product development, the difference is that the idea, the perfect picture, may change in the process, but I still believe that the metaphor stands. So when I grew up, I channeled that creativity that I had into writing, and that was actually my window into the world of tech. I didn't know what software development was at that time. I didn't know what a content management system was at that time, or what an HTML tag was, or what an API request was. But I got a job as a website editor just because I could write. And what I had to do is I had to provide content for the features that were being developed. And that was the window for me. That's where I got the glimpse of how software development works, of what it is, of what it entails, of how creative it is, and of how difficult it is. And I thought that this might be something that I might be interested in, but I didn't pursue it at the time. But then fast forward a couple of years, and I realized that software development is something that I actually really want to do. And this is where Vendon comes in. I think it was a huge risk for both of us to give me that job. My previous job had the title expert. It said that I was an expert or something, and now I was applying for the position of a junior IT project manager. And for Vendon, it was a huge risk as well, because I had very little experience with software development, yet they were ready to entrust me with the dearest thing that I have, their software. And 3 years later, I am still with them, so I think that it worked out pretty well. Yeah, so we come to today's topic, which is teams, team decisions, team responsibility. When I started out at Vendon, it wasn't that easy for me. I was a junior project manager. I had little experience with software development. I didn't know the product. And now I was going to sit at the same table with several developers, some of whom were senior developers. And now I had to tell them what to do. it didn't work out that well. Maybe I was projecting, but I got the feeling that they didn't really respect me, that they weren't listening to me, that they didn't think that my ideas were valid, and I didn't know why. And then one day there came a revelation that the problem is that I am not thinking as if I were part of that team. We are all not looking in the same direction. We are not functioning as a single unit. And I guess that, and I think, and I believe that in software development, that is an essential thing, that you all look in the same direction. And one of the ways to achieve that is to achieve a state of shared responsibility. What is it? It is when every person on the team is responsible not just for the thing that they are directly working on, but for the success or the failure of the whole product. And I think it's a very important thing to have, and it actually can help you with several things. So if you achieve that state of shared responsibility, you get a much wider perspective. Instead of just your eyes looking at a problem, you have 6 or 7 or 8 pairs of eyes looking at an issue, trying to find the best solution for that issue, trying to just brainstorm what you can do. Number 2 is that your problem-solving processes skyrocket. When you have the state of shared responsibility, there is more trust in the team. So whenever there's an issue, nobody is trying to solve that on their own and hide in a cave until it's too late. People are much more willing to come out and say that, hey, I have a problem here, and the team will just rush to help you. Number 3, it distributes pressure among all team members equally. For you as a project manager, that's great, right? You have less pressure. For you might think that, why would a developer want more pressure? Well, if they want to have an opinion, and if they want to have an opinion that is heard, then I don't think that that can go without any responsibility. I think that opinions without responsibility only exist in the anonymous comment sections of news sites. Otherwise, if you want your opinion to count, you need to take on some of the pressure. But the good thing is that everybody knows that each person is under some pressure and that the pressure is equal, but there isn't one senior developer pulling all the weight and then others just following them without any responsibility. Thing number 4 is that it leads to a better performance. When you all have a common goal that you share and that you have a clear idea in your head that you want to achieve, it's much easier to put in more effort, to be more efficient, to actually do the work. At least it is for me. I mean, when I have something to do that I really believe in, it's much easier for me to find that strength in me to actually do the thing, even if I don't want to do it. But if I don't believe in what I am doing, I will try to put it off for as long as possible. Of course, another way is just to have a very strict deadline. Then you will do all the things that you don't like to do, but you just have to do. And thing number 5 is, at the end of the day, you get a better product. And that is what you want, isn't it? You want to create a product that people want to use, that people like, that people want to buy. So, how do you get to that state of shared responsibility? Does that happen automatically? Well, for me, it didn't. And here's the moment of revelation that I had. I was a junior project manager, and I had just spoken to a customer about a feature that they wanted us to build. And I thought, okay, this is a good feature, we should do it. So I go to the team, I sit down and I say, hey, let's build this feature. They're looking at me like, what? Why? And I'm like, well, but this is a great thing to do. We need to do it now. And they look at one another, think for a minute, and then they say, okay, give us 6 months and we will give you that feature. And I don't have those 6 months. And I don't think that this feature takes that much time to build. So I run to my boss and I complain. I tell him, hey, you know, my team has no respect for me. They don't listen to me. They don't want to do anything that I tell them to do. And everything is shit. And my boss tells me, just tell me what you told them. So I relate the conversation to him. And he asks me, okay, Guna, did you tell them why this is a good problem to solve? Did you tell them why this is the right time and the right place to solve this problem? Did you tell them what the solution will actually achieve? How is this not another custom feature that you're going to be building for one customer who might or might not use it? How is this a feature that everybody will use and will actually like? And then I was forced to admit that I had told them none of these things. So here's my first tip, which my boss actually gave me, and that is that you have to sell your idea. The same way as a startup pitches to an investor, I think that you have to pitch your idea to your team. And I don't mean that you have to pitch a picture-perfect solution. What you have to do is you have to make them understand why the problem is relevant. Why is this something that we actually have to do? And when you get that buy-in from your team, when you are on the same page, you will get feedback, you will get people looking for solutions. Perhaps the solution that you had devised in your head is actually unnecessarily complex. What you can do is perhaps a workaround that takes much less time and achieves the same result. But if you don't have that buy-in, I don't believe that your team will be ready to share their ideas with you. So, how do you get to that feedback? It's a very simple thing, perhaps Captain Obvious, but it's something that people tend to forget. I have forgotten it at times as well, and that is, if you want feedback, you have to ask for that feedback. There will be different people on your team. Some people are ready to share their opinion as soon as you start speaking. They're ready to chime in whenever. But there are some people that are not that extroverted, so they will not speak out unless they are specifically asked and addressed. And what you have to do, you have to learn what kind of people you have on your team, and then make sure that you do not leave anybody out. And the second part of this is that when somebody is speaking, make sure to listen actively. Even though you may think that your idea is already perfect, and you don't need any honing, but just take the time to listen to people. Because if you don't really listen, but just listen for the sake of listening, people will stop speaking one day, and then you will be back to square one, where you don't actually have that much respect from the team. That takes me to the next point, which is that all ideas are good ideas at first. And what I mean by that is that you shouldn't be quick to criticize when an idea comes out. Just let people speak first. My colleague once suggested that we try a technique which is a spin on the 6 thinking cats. 6 thinking cats is a decision-making technique where you have a problem, and then you look at it from several aspects, but you take it one aspect at a time. And what we did, we had a problem to solve, and we decided to have a meeting in 3 parts. So part 1, we generate ideas. Part 2, we criticize these ideas. And part 3, we then shortlist the ideas and then decide which ones to pursue further. Parts 2 and 3 went totally fine. But the interesting thing about part 1 was that it was super difficult to just keep your mouth shut. When people were speaking and when there was an idea which didn't totally correspond to your perception of a perfect idea, it was so difficult to just abstain from saying out loud that this idea is no good, this wouldn't work, this doesn't work, this because of this and this and this. But the point of the exercise is to collect ideas, however crazy they may be, because from these crazy ideas, which are not grounded in reality, something super good can actually come out of. Then we get to the next point, which is learning to stand back, which is something that the previous speaker already said about delegating responsibility. So you need to be brave enough, and you need to trust your team enough to allow them to make decisions for themselves. You don't need to micromanage them. Every decision doesn't need to have your seal approval on them. And I know that it is really difficult to give up that control, but I don't think that efficient teamwork is possible without it. However, you have to be available to the team. You have to be available to the team for questions, for comments, for concerns, or for anything. Why? Because there may be a time when a decision that is being made at the beginning of the project actually has a huge impact on the final outcome of the product, and you want to be there to catch that moment and to fix it. Otherwise, you will again end up disappointed that the product is not what you thought it would be. And another thing is, when you don't understand something, you need to speak out. For me, I sometimes worry that I say it too often, that I don't understand this, I don't get it, I don't. And I'm worried that my team will think that I'm absolutely daft. But it's actually only benefited us, because in the process of explanation, again, you get new perspectives. Perhaps something was forgotten, that's why you don't understand something. Perhaps there's another issue that will be uncovered in the process of explanation. So just don't be afraid to say that you don't understand something. And then we come to the final point, which is completely opposite to what I just said, and it is learning to take charge. So there will be a time when you will have to make a decision, you yourself, and you can't just delegate that responsibility to your team and tell them to do it on their own. You will need to be the one who actually puts that seal of approval on that document. For instance, there's a feature that you want to build, and you have two options. Option one, you build it in 3 days, and you leave a huge technical debt. Option number two, you build it in 2 weeks' time, and you don't leave a technical debt. Which one do you choose? You can't have your team make that decision for you, because you are the one who knows the pipeline, you know the backlog, you know how many tasks are ahead of you. Maybe you can't spare those 2 weeks at this time, and you need to be the one to disappoint your team and tell them, no, we're going to leave that technical debt because we just need this feature, and it's critical to us. So, these are the 5 things that have helped me immensely in my journey as a project manager and a product manager. And perhaps in your company, the approach is totally different. Maybe this is something that is not going to work for you, but I do believe that what it comes to down essentially is communication. And this is what Kelly said at the beginning of the day, that communication is the key to success. We all want to be heard. We all want to be validated. We don't want to be left out. And I think that communication is the way to achieve that. And it doesn't just apply to development teams or software development, product development. It also applies to your daily life. Say you want to paint your living room black, or you want to get a dog. So what do? Do you just do it, or make your partner do it? Or do you actually discuss this idea? Do you try to find pros and cons, and do you come to a common decision? Well, there are, of course, these 2 ways, and you can go with the first way, but I don't think that first way is actually a sustainable approach because, well, especially in development teams, I mean, developers are in huge demand right now, and they will be. So I am not sure that they would stay with you for a long time if you don't extend them the courtesy of treating them like people, like equals, like people that you can actually learn from, and like people that have valid ideas. And I believe that that is one of the keys to success. And what's beautiful about our company is that this state of shared responsibility does not exist solely in the development team. I think it exists among all of us. All company, everybody who works at Vendon is the biggest fan of our product. And I think that this is what makes Vendon a great workplace. And by the way, we are hiring. We are looking for a PHP developer. We are also looking for a junior IT project manager. So perhaps check it out, draugiemgroup.com/work, and maybe we can meet at the office sometime. So this actually concludes my today's talk. If you have any questions, feedback, comments, anything, then I'm happy to hear those. If not, then thank you for your attention. It was a pleasure being here.
Yay! Thank you, Guna, so much. Do we have any questions in the audience? Yes, we have questions. You can ask your question. I will repeat it so that also the people online hear it, and then Guna can answer. Okay, so the question is about management style and management techniques. So we've been talking here about listening to everyone, involving everyone in the decision-making process, right? Can you talk about some other management styles or approaches, or is this the best one?
Well, for me, I think it is the best one. I think there are many ways to manage a team or to manage a company. Of course, you can be that strict boss who decides everything, who knows the best, and then all of your employees are basically your slaves. But I don't think that that is the best approach. And in our company, our CEO is basically on the same level as we are. What he always tells me is, you don't have to do whatever I tell you to do. I'm just trying to sell my idea to you, and it is upon you to actually decide whether to pursue it or not. So I think that that's the best way.
And I like the reference that you make about selling your idea, because actually when you start a company or you run a team, you have to be a really good salesperson. You have to sell all your ideas to your team first and then to the customers. Okay, do we have any more questions in the audience? Anybody else wants to ask one? Not yet. Okay. Then I will ask a question if that's okay. Yeah? So what has been most surprising for you, Guna, in Vendon? What didn't you expect?
I think that I didn't expect that much trust because, as I said at the beginning, I was a junior. I had almost no experience with teams, and when I arrived at Vendon, we were 2 project managers, and 1 left for maternity leave in 3 months' time. So now I was a junior project manager left to manage the whole team. And the people at the company just trusted me that I could do that, even though it was super difficult for me at the beginning. I mean, I somehow pushed through, and here I am.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And now, I think like a couple of hundred, yeah, let's give a round of applause for Guna.